720 pixels up the side of the screen. And then a full HD television is going to be your 1080i, right? 1920 by 1080. So anyone been shopping at like Target or Best Buy? And have you seen like have you seen like a 720p next to a 1080i television? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe next time you're in there, pay attention. Right? Technically, they're both high def. They both receive a high def signal. However, you're going to notice kind of a remarkable difference between a full 1080 and a 720 video. You know, the 720 looks a little bit more blocky, chunky, whereas full HD is like real crisp and clean, right? Because you're packing more pixel information into the same surface area, essentially. And so it makes nice, clean lines. All right? So basically, standard definition video formats are these low guys, right up to DV NTSC. Whereas your high definition video formats are everything above.
What does standard go up to?
DV NTSC. And if you think about this, again, when basically a video file is literally just a series of ones and zeros that describe all the color information for every pixel that's in a frame of video, right? So if you have a standard definition piece, or a piece of standard if you have a piece of standard definition video, and it's recording 3 little bits of information for all of those pixels. Let's say you have a 1-minute clip. It might be 100 megabytes of information, just recording all of those little numbers for every little pixel that's on that or in that video. What would that same 1 minute of video be, or how big would that same 1 minute of video be at full HD?
1 gigabit.
Close. I mean, just based visually, like right here, how much bigger is high def than standard def?
Twice as much.
You think twice? How many of these like little red boxes could I fit in the big green box?
4.
Yeah, about 4, right? It's even a little bit more than 4. So yeah, if like a 1 minute of standard definition video was 100 megabytes, 1 minute of high def video is going to be closer to like 500 to 600 megabytes. And so you have to keep that in mind when before you start shooting, kind of off on your own. In here, our computers are pretty hefty and we have a lot of storage space, so it's not that much of a concern. But you know, if you have like at your computer at home, if you only have 200 megabytes, you're probably not going to be able to shoot in high def for your home computer. All right? Something to keep in mind. All right, so the last thing involved with an actual frame of video is talking about the aspect ratio. And the aspect ratio is simply the ratio of the width of your frame or screen by the height of your frame of video or your screen. And so what we've got up here is actually a high def television, and it has an aspect ratio of 16:9. Meaning that if you divided this screen into kind of equal segments, there would be 16 segments across by 9 segments high.
So it's the length and the width?
Yeah, it's just kind of like the ratio of the width to the height.
Oh, it's the
Yeah, width to the height. And so high definition video has an aspect ratio of 16:9, whereas standard definition only has an aspect ratio of 4:3. Does anyone have a high def television at home?
There you go.
Like a big
Yeah.
flat screen? Do you have high def channels?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever seen, like, say, NBC in HD versus just NBC normal?
Yeah, it's so clear.
Okay, so there's definitely
Much above that.
HD is much more clear. When you go to the standard definition, what do you notice?
Wait, what are these computer screens? They seem pretty good.
Most of these, like this one's HD. Most of these actually aren't quite full HD. They're more the 1280.
They seem really good still, though.
Yeah, they are pretty good. Does anyone, so when you go to the standard definition, you're going to notice black bars,
Oh, yeah.
right? Have you seen that on your TV? Like your picture doesn't actually fill up the whole screen, right? And that's because standard definition only has that 4:3 aspect ratio, meaning that there's only that much video to fill a screen that's built for something much bigger. And so, you know, your TV actually has like on the remote usually an aspect ratio button, and it allows you to like stretch it out or zoom in or do something. Yeah? Right? But when you stretch it, everyone like gets like short and squat and they look all fat and short. Right? And so that's literally what's happening is you're taking a standard definition signal and you're trying to squeeze or stretch it out to fill a high definition space. That doesn't work so hot. All right. So now that we basically know what's involved or what composes a single frame of video, how do you turn it into motion? What is video? We talked about this a few,
It's a bunch of little
like a week
pictures.
ago.
That
Yes.
really fast.
Exactly. It's just a bunch of still pictures taken one after the other, and then when you play back quickly, it creates the illusion of motion, right? And so basically the method in which a camera and so essentially, yeah, a video camera is recording or it's taking 30 pictures per second, right? And that is indicated, or 30 frames per second, and that's an FPS, right? So FPS is literally how many still pictures, click, 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 your video camera takes every second. So if this were an accurate representation, we'd actually just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This would be like a 9 FPS video stream. But again, all the cameras that we use in this classroom operate on 30 frames per second. So they're literally taking 30 pictures per second. A few kind of like interesting things can be, or you can sort of play around with frames per second to achieve different effects. If you were to record at 30 frames per second, so literally taking 30 pictures per second, and then you were to watch it back at that same speed, what kind of effect would you get?
Good one.
What would it look like? What would the video look like? So if you were to watch the video at the same speed that you shot the video, how does the video look?
It'll look the same.
It looks the same, right? It's real time. Looks normal. So it's like capturing just reality, right? However, let's say you were only going to click off one picture every second. So like 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000. But played it back at 30 frames per second, what kind of effect are you going to get?
Choppy really fast.
Kind of like claymation, well, except not as like a really choppy claymation.
That is how they do claymation, but in claymation they get to control what happens in the scene, right? So if you were just shooting outside, do you get to control like a car driving by?
No.
No. So what's it going to look like? The car's just like going really fast, right? Anyone seen like a flower bloom? What's that called?
Blooming.
Anyone know?
Yeah.
It's called time lapse, right? Time lapse video, and that's like where you get like the clouds rolling over the mountain, or like sunrise, sunset, flowers blooming, people like looking like they're rivers and flowing around and stuff. So, on the other side, on the flip side of that coin, if you were to shoot 120 pictures in a second, but only play it back at 30 frames per second, what kind of effect would you get?
Just slow motion.
Slow motion, right? So think about it like I'm swinging my arm, right? If I were to take 30 pictures of my arm from here to here and then play it back at 30 frames in a second, I'd get my arm swinging. If I were to only take one picture in 1 second, I'd just literally get my arm from like there to like there. And so it just looks like I go blink.
So the more you have the like, or
Yeah, and so if I took 120 pictures, right? I just have that much more information so that when I play it back, it turns into something like really smooth and slow. Does that make sense? And so yeah, you get slow motion. All right, so every frame of video that a camera records has a number assigned to it, and that number is called time code. All right, and the time code number is indicated in hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So literally, as you hit record on your camera, and for every picture that your camera takes, it's going to assign it a number. This number is how your camera talks to your computer. Your editing software essentially can know where in a piece of video it exists. It allows you to go to 3 seconds, right? Because it knows that actually 3 seconds isn't just 3 seconds. It's 150 frames. You're at frame 150, but it's indicated via this time code. Sorry, if 3 seconds would be 90 frames. Sorry, 90 frames. All right, and so if we had this time code, what's that? How would we read that time code?
36 minutes, 59 seconds, and 21 minutes.
Okay. What would happen if we shot a half a second more, so 15 more frames of video? What would our time code be? Add 15 frames to that time code, and where would you get to?
Like 1
Seventy
hour.
36, 59, 36.
It would change the time one. Just wondering.
It would. I'm being tricky. So you get 1 hour. So remember, we shoot 30 frames in a second. So this is going to click up to essentially 29,
So
and then
37.
click over to 0 and add a 1.
So 1 hour, 37.
36 minutes,
7.
60 seconds. and
Wait, wait,
No,
wait.
37 minutes and
0 seconds.
0 seconds.
And then 70 something frames.
29 or whatever you said.
No, 30.
39.
Wait, hold on.
Not 39.
57.
Remember, it clicks over at 29. So you would go up to 20. So you'd
1.
add 9 or 8 frames or whatever. This would get 0 out and then like rattle up to say 7. I guess is what it would be. All right.
Okay.
You'll see basically every time you hit record in your camera or when you're playing video in your editing software, you'll notice time code rattling off. Okay. When we talk about time code, we actually need to be aware of creating continuous time code when we're shooting on tape. It's pretty much only tape. Luckily, our new slick video cameras that record on SD cards, they record continuous time code for us automatically. We don't have to worry about it ever. Yes. Right? However, if you ever find yourself recording onto tape, you need to make sure that you have an entire tape full of numbers, meaning that for every frame of video, there's a number recorded, and a number from starting at frame 1 and going all the way up to, these tapes happen to be an hour, so it's going all the way up to an hour. What can happen on these tapes is that you end up recording non-continuous time code, meaning that you end up with blank video. So for example, let's say we take this shot, this football player shot, and we hit pause. And when we